Hey everybody, Martin Chuck here. Welcome. We'll let the people fill into the seminar and we'll get started. Have some fun with you all. Appreciate you taking time out to watch.
Great to be here with you, Martin.
Peter, as always, buddy. Great to be with you.
We had a very hectic golf school season, so we missed a month.
Yeah, I was a little worn out, to be honest with you. You know, March and April that's when most people from the northern United States grow weary of their cold months in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. And I'm lucky enough they come down and see me. So we had a very, very busy couple of months. And this week marks our last golf school of the 2020-21 season. So very blessed that even despite COVID, we had a great turnout from those folks that were, vaccinated and felt comfortable coming out and social distancing on the driving range, letting me yell at them for 3 days. So that was fun.
Yeah, well, basically we're coming into our winter, so you're coming into your warm summer. So you'll probably go north for the summer, don't you?
I do, and I'm going to flash my tan line here. So you're going to see some really white legs and some dark calves there. Sorry if I blinded anybody on your computer screen right there. I apologize. So I tell you what, let's get, people want to learn. Let's get started. Peter said, Martin, you're in charge. So I'm going to Chris Beckett, thank you for putting this together. Peter Croker has been a longtime dear friend of mine for years. I met him, I want to say it was in the mid-90s, maybe 97-ish, Southern California. I went to a seminar and Peter put the seminar on. And it was one of those eye-opening experiences from a teacher who had acquired a lot of knowledge and is a truth seeker of the game. And he helped me develop my skills quite a bit. I had some great coaches prior to Peter, and I consider Peter a coach of mine and a mentor of mine. So I'm thrilled to be on here with him and Chris to share some stuff that I think will help you process things and apply it to your game so you can strike the golf ball a little bit more solid and have a little bit more fun. After all, that's the goal. So Chris, why don't you put up we're doing faults and fixes today, and let's get right to it.
All right, so I'm sure everyone here has some kind of fault and they would like some kind of fix, okay?
Amen.
So if you understand the fault and understand how to fix it, it's a big stepping stone in enjoying your golf more and, of course, lower scores, which is our intention as coaches to help you. So basically, we're going to be discussing some faults and fixes, and let's just have a look at a couple of them, and then I'll hand it back to you guys. So a classic fault with, I'd say, most golfers is the outside in slice shot or the outside in pull shot. Now, slightly differences, but let's hand it back to you guys and take it away.
So it's I'll jump. Oops, dropping my clubs. I'll jump on this one. We see all kinds of paths that cut across the target line. So the target line, obviously, a straight path to either the middle of the fairway, a conservative place on the green, perhaps the pin, if the pin is in a conservative place on the green. And, obviously what we see with my Frisbee here, but I'll talk about that later. The situation when a path gets over the top, we see the golf club approaching the golf ball from a steep place. And from there, that typically we're going to have a friction event that cuts across the golf ball. The golf ball is going to get, squirt out to right field and have some spin on it. And when we have a path, usually when I have a path that's going this way, the student has figured out to reward themselves for an open face. And what I mean by that is if they have a poor grip and the face gets wide open and they're coming down to the golf ball with a wide open face and they have a decent path, the ball is going to start right into my wall over there where I've got a nice picture of Ben Hogan on the wall. So what do people do? They go ahead and reroute that open face, buy themselves time. They back out of the shot, buy themselves time to give themselves a chance to square the face to hit it. And what you get is a wide variety of where the ball starts and usually ends up in some kind of a slice. So, you know, I love the way Peter talks about how people put hands on the club properly, because you've got to get your hands on in a manner. I mean, you don't have to have a perfect grip, but let's be honest. If you have a perfect grip, so many things are easier. If you have a really poor grip, then you have to do different accommodations to make the club face work in a fraction of amount of time from the top of the swing back down to the golf ball. So Peter, kicking it over to you, you know, that open face over the top behavior, you know, helps those people that lose the ball to the right, start the ball a bit more to the left. So how do you help your students get started with just a beautiful pair of hands? And I love the way you do this. So let me kick it over to you, buddy.
Okay, well, looking at the grip, what's the most important thing about the grip is the relationship of the left wrist, the top hand on the club, to the grip of the club. A lot of golfers initially grab the club a bit too much in the palm, and then their wrist is more or less in front of the grip. So we call that a weak grip. So when they do get into a natural position, the club face will be open. So the first thing to be aware of is to put the left wrist right on top of the grip in a shake hands position. You need to have a bit of a bend in the wrist. That's a flat wrist, that's a bent wrist. So you want the wrist to start off with a little bit of a bend. And when you grip the club, you want to grip it basically across the roots of the fingers. You don't want to be up in the palm. So by having it down there across the fingers, then you really got control of the club. And that's that allows you now to control the club face. So your wrist is on top, and that now gives you much more control of a square club face. When your wrist tends to be in front, the tendency is the club face will open up, and therefore the ball is going to have a tendency to go to the right. And then you start trying to overcorrect it by swinging on the right path, on an outside in path, I should say. So bottom line is there is the left hand position. The top hand is really critical. So once it's on, what will happen if you understand that the next thing is a lot of people think that they want the club face to go down the target line. So instead of having the club face go towards the target, in golf, the real swing has an opening door, closed door approach. So there's what we call a release. And your hand naturally when your grip's good, it's a natural release. The toe of the club wants to go over. That's the way that the balance in the club, it wants to twist. It doesn't want to hold square. And your hand, if you throw it down, it naturally would go this way. It doesn't go this way. So if you just go with the natural move, once you've got the good grip, the club face wants to close. So I think for someone that's slicing the ball, definitely you have to get rid of the idea of making the club face go to the flag. You must allow the toe to go. So we say the toe of the club, which is here, we want the toe to go first through the ball. And so that comes up, and that then leads to the path. And I think this is where we got the cover of Golf Digest way back in '95, was giving people permission to throw the club head at the ball. So instead of going down the target line to hit the ball straight, you actually have to throw the club head down and out. And this little drill here is really a great drill to stop people coming to pull it over the top. And it's from the top, have a practice swing from back here, just training your hands to make the club shaft go in line with the lead arm, not out of line.
Right.
And definitely not pulling. If you pull, the body turn brings you outside, and then you're outside in. So you have to be able to throw. And we say you throw and go.
Yeah, no, I love it, Peter. I think I even have, it's fascinating. You know, in my golf school, I think the average age is 60-year-old. And when I talk about people needing a little bit more behavior of the golf club working away from them, they go, well, isn't that casting? And I say, no, it's not casting. I said, the folks that have open faces that get over the top, they're trying to back out and buy time, and then their hands wind up being behind the golf ball when they hit it, and they hit weak glancing strikes. So, you know, your way of saying the wrist joint needs to be on top of the grip, I tell you what, I bet you if I had a nickel for every time that I've readjusted somebody's lead wrist to get it on top of their grip, that is so many nickels. Oh, I'd still do videos with you, but I'd be on my jet doing them, okay? But this is a situation where people, they grip the club out of comfort rather than function, because they set the club on the ground, they put their hands on it, and that feels comfortable, and comfortable must be good. And I think you would agree with me that in time, when you do things correctly, having certainty becomes comfortable, knowing that the golf club, the club face is in a place where we feel as a high level striker, and you're an excellent striker, in that when your hands are on properly, the club face is organized, and that is comfortable. It may not be comfortable for the newbie, and for the coaches watching this, and for any golfers out there that feel like they, quote, can't get through a golf shot, because I hear that all the time. Martin, I don't get through it. And I would say to those golfers that said they don't get through it, I would say to them, it's not that you don't get through it, it's that you're not prepared leading up into it. Because if the face is open late, the only thing you can do is kind of hang back to give yourself any kind of chance to flash the face closed and hit some kind of shot that goes into play. And then usually you'll feel your weight hang back, and then you'll say, well, I didn't get through the ball. And I'll say, well, you know what? If you got through the ball, you wouldn't like where the ball went. So you're doing what you need to do based on that grip and hand relationship. So circling back to your awesome drill that you taught me 25 years ago, you know what I really like to have people do, Peter? I like to have them get an inexpensive Frisbee, because this little feeling of once they get their wrist joint on top of the grip and they take a Frisbee, and this is just a tiny light one, it's not a fancy one at all, and it was a giveaway at some Toll Brothers homes, some home thing we went to. This sensation, and this really helps from down the line, this little action, A to B, getting the club head to go down and out toward the golf ball, gets the golf club low enough so that any kind of the rotation kicks the club inside out to hit a shot, rather than, like you'd said, any kind of handle pulling stands the club up and creates a slowdown motion, a powerless motion where the person has to reroute the golf club to have any success. And we see that all the time. I'd way rather see a very simple A to B motion on this side-on game we play that helps people strike nice shots, that they can hit solid shots and hit draws.
Yes. Yeah, look, basically, most golfers, when they get started, that they really getting into a good backswing position is number one. So someone that is coming over the top of the golf ball and going this chronic outside-in slice, it has its beginning when they get off on the wrong, they get too much inside on the backswing. And then as they swing up, the arms got nowhere to go but to go outside. So we find that if you start the club head last, it allows the club shaft to stay on the correct path going back. If you go club head first, the tendency is when you get inside here, now you're in here, you got two ways to go. Usually, if you go higher up, your arms bounce off your body. And the way your arm is designed, if you just swing it up and down, it stays there. But if you come across your body too much, as it gets higher, just to protect your shoulder, it'll go this way. So the golfers that find that they've got a really chronic outside-in slice, the first thing is to make sure you got the right grip and you got the concept that you're going to allow the club face to release. That's number one. The no good going on the right path with the wrong grip, or the idea that the club's got to stay down the line, because they'll make the ball, as Martin said, they'll go off to the right. So basically, the backswing, if you can start having the club head stay on this side, you know, a Matthew Wolf or a Jim Furyk, this is a bit extreme, but they definitely are not going to come over the top. Anyone that goes out that way will have a loop this way. Most people that slice are starting out of sequence. They start club head first or arms first. And as soon as you do that, any turn brings you in. And any further up, you're doomed to bounce off of that. So get the pass right. You really need handle first, club head last. And then a practice drill, as you said, Martin, this one here, just train the hands to go down here. What we like to say is the club head's there, and if my right arm is here, my club head's going down under the right arm. It's not going over it. So that's how I think we came up with down under golf. So it came down under there. And when you put that in the correct relationship, the club shaft is moving in line with that lead arm. It's not moving out of line. So, but to get that going down and to stop it over the top, it's really key that you start back with the club head last rather than club head first. And then that promotes the naturalness of the hinging, and then it makes it so much more able to be done to get the A to B line, which we call it down and out. And
you know, to jump on that and add in there the benefit of going handle first, club head last. You know, I had a full day of coaching today on the range in Phoenix, and I'll tell you, it was interesting, the sensation of most golfers want to be, you know, I just joke, I say they're stuck in the mud, their feet are in mud, they don't move. And their first move is this motion around them with their hands kind of pop away from them. The club head comes in, and then all of a sudden they've got that response that you're talking about. And maybe if they played a really long time, maybe they figured out how to get, you know, have a low point that's dangerously behind the golf ball and flash some hooks. And we'll talk about that later on in this episode. But the point, you know, you're talking about, which I love, is handle first, club head last, because the sense of pressure in your feet. You know, we teach a waggle in the golf school, and I know you're a big fan of the waggle too, and the meaning of educating your hands and waggling. And once somebody gets ready to go and has this sense of pushing into the ground, which runs everything up the system, down the arms to the handle first, the club head's the last thing to go. And that motion helps you create this momentum that slings the club up to the top, rather than something that's stuck in the mud and contrived getting up to the top. I'd way rather see a dynamic event pushing into the ground that helps you create momentum, that helps you get into a spot where you can really fire at the golf ball A to B.
Yeah, thanks very much. That's really helping hit home the point of the importance of the start of the swing to help the downswing path. Because if you go in sequence, club head last, you get that natural hinging, and then it's very much easier to have the idea of throwing the club head down at the ball. And so the idea that golf is a two-target game. While the ball, you want to go towards the flag, you want the club head to go down towards the ball. And that direction of hit is across the target line. As it gets down to the bottom and you run out of right arm, the body turn will bring you up and around. So you never have to worry about not going out to the right like that, but you're going down and out into the golf ball. And that ideal of compressing or throwing the club head down and burying the golf ball through the earth. Don't try to scoop it up. Try to hit it with a descending blow, and that throw is in that direction. As soon as you throw it down the target line, you go outside in, probably the first couple, if you have a good grip, will start going left. You'll then soon learn to leave the club face open, and that's where you get the guy that's, especially with the driver, you get the big banana ball. Starts left and curves back, finishes in the right-hand trees.
So a quick little drill. When you're outside, an easy way to go A to B, an aim stick above your golf ball, stick it in the ground on about a 45-degree angle. I'm in my studio here, so I've got one of my little devices kind of holds aim sticks on mats or whatever. And you can kind of see now from down the line, I've got something that would inspire me not to come over the top. So this is something that when I hit a shot to go A to B now, is I find that externally, if a student can see where to go A to B, you know, it helps them go, oh, I understand. Okay, so this is a vertical representation where the ball is. This is a me uncocking under A to B, allowing my body to rotate as the golf club gets into place. And if I hit one for you, so there's a club that, while that may be intimidating for some early on, it makes perfect sense when you stand and looking over this to say, oh, I see. I don't want to pull the handle and get steep. I want to feel like the club flees away from me a little bit in conjunction with my pivot, and I can hit some nice strong shots. So a simple drill for those people that are slicers. And if you hit this, it may be noisy, it might be mildly embarrassing for a second, because people do, but really it's a great little exercise. So from face on, since I'm only showing you one camera angle here, would kind of look like this. The golf ball would be kind of underneath the elevated part. Now you've got this feeling of going A to B to the golf ball, rather than, potentially getting the club vertical, pulled down too steep to hit a fade.
I've got a very good question from Bryce. Did Ben Hogan and Mo Norman start their swings with the handle starting the takeaway?
That's a good question. Well, you can answer Mo Norman. I'll answer the Ben Hogan bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead with Ben.
Okay, well, at high speed, it's very hard to see. You have to slow the swing down. But basically, Ben Hogan, I've got my tennis racket out here now to highlight the club face. Ben Hogan had a very positive waggle. He wrote a lot about the waggle in his book, The Five Fundamentals, that programs the hands and arms for the swing. See, it's not this way. It comes down under. Now, but when you saw him, he had a little forward press, and his handle went ever so slightly first, and then it hinged. So the base he made a very fast start, but it was always the handle just a fraction ahead of the club head. It never went club head first with Ben Hogan. And what happens from there is the club will naturally want to hinge. So the more positive you do the handle first, the more the club will load the wrists. The swinging club head will load. And he swung it definitely a little bit of handle first. If you look at some of the stop frame pictures of him, you'll definitely see this way through the swing. It's not exaggerated. As soon as the handle moves forward, or as soon as you push forward, the hips turn, and that takes the handle a little forward. As soon as you push back with the lead hand against the trail hand, the hip turn, shoulder turn takes it away, and then the swinging club. So Ben Hogan definitely used that. I know Mo Norman had a different way, and I'd like really to get the insights from Martin on why.
So growing up around Mo Norman was interesting, because I first met him when I was I think I was 10. So I was 10 years old at a camp. That was pretty interesting. I saw him actually change his technique fractionally. I saw him change his grip from overlapping to 10 finger. I saw him change his club head from being a bit more behind the ball to starting off a little bit more like a foot behind the ball and inside the golf ball. And so, Mo developed his technique, and he liked to feel like his stance was a little wider, his hands were a little higher. But Mo had a pretty positive waggle, as Peter says as well. So he was the 747 of golf. He didn't waste any time. So, he always stepped into his shots, put the club down, tap it, sat behind the ball. But there was always a motion where Mo, and then he would kind of recoil and do his little thing pointing the golf club. But I guess the theme of this we want you to understand is that good players don't put themselves in molasses. They have a readiness to them. I say in my golf camp 3 things. Your eye, you've got 2 targets. The ball's got a target, the club head has a target. That's a given, okay? The feet, you have to feel the ground. You have to be aware of the flag, and you have to have the weight of the club in your hands. So to do that, does it make sense to be idle, or does it make sense to have motion? I guarantee you go to a busy range on any course in the country, wherever you live, stand on the range and watch the players. The people standing there like this, they're not the high-level players. The people that have some sort of motion preceding the event of their swing, they are the better players. There's a priming event that's required to hit good shots. Mo Norman had it. Ben Hogan had it. The sense of handle first is far and away more used. Bryson DeChambeau, if you slow him down, it's really extreme, by the way. You got to slow it down to see it, but it's extreme. This event of handle first has so many more benefits of width that can develop whip. Again, width develops whip. If you're narrow and pull the club inside, all of a sudden you have the opposites, which are detractors from being a good ball striker. So, you know, I don't profess to be a Mo Norman expert. I spent a lot of time around the guy when I was little, watching and loving the fact he hit the ball in the middle of the face where he was aiming. But do I profess to teach his way? I do not. My real mentor as a coach as a young man was George Knudson, a fantastic ball striker as well, very successful in the PGA Tour.
Got another question from David Wright. Martin, does your pivot respond to the energy of your club head? In other words, do you think about your pivot? P.S. During the downswing.
You know, so David, was it David? So David, I'd say, you know, there's a lot of athletic response. So if I took this golf ball, you know, and I'm going to throw it into the screen, you know, and you watch what my pivot's going to do, you know, my hand is aware of the weight of the ball. I have my intent on where I want to throw this. If I was going to throw it down at the golf ball, if I was going to throw it down into the screen, my pivot's responding to what I have in my hands. Okay, so a lot of that response is, if I threw this ball, it would ricochet into my old tour bag over there. So watch the energy where this golf ball goes. You know, it didn't go straight down a line. It bounced and went out into the right corner of the room, because that delivery is a down and out delivery that my body's responding to the intent of delivering that golf ball there. That event is, you know, that's not something where you're hanging back. It's something where you kind of have to stay up to hit down a little bit. And that event shot a golf ball a little bit to my right. That doesn't mean a club head's going to go to my right. I'm not going to let go of the club head. It's going to continue on its circle path around me, the geometry of a good golf swing. So to me, my pivot responds to what I feel in my hands. Start your swing with what you feel underfoot. Connect to what you see as a goal for where you want your golf ball to go. Feel the weight of the club in your hands. Let the weight of the club, how it feels in your hands, make you respond. Now, as coaches, we're going to make sure that you have certain things that make sense, reasonable club heads, decent wrist conditions. That's a given. And then from there, the responses tend to be simpler and more effective.
Yeah, great, Martin. I've got one of my favourite toys here. It's an A board, and it's got discs, 2 discs on swivel discs. And if I stand on this carefully, you'll see how the body responds to the hands in a good golf swing and in a bad golf swing. So if I go club head first in the start of my swing, this is the one we don't want to do. Club head first or arms first. As I go back, my lower body doesn't want to go. My upper body will pull me back, but I'll get a lot of strain on the lower back, or any part of the back actually, as well as other joints. And I'll be on the wrong path, because as soon as I go back club head first, any body turn sucks me inside. If I take club head last, handle first, instantly the hips turn as a result of the way I use my hands. If I use them correctly, my hips turn back, and then watch what happens as I start to hinge in the backswing. Watch what happens to the hips. So as I start to go back, as I hinge back, instantly, as soon as the hinge happens, my hips are on their downward move. I'm not turning the hips. They're responding, as Martin said, to that club head. The weight of that club head is causing. So now if I throw all the way, watch what happens to the hips as a result of using my hands correctly. So on these discs, I can keep going. Matter of fact, my buddy Simon Owen when we had these back when I was a few years back, and I had him on these. He was having so much fun. He took his driver out, and he was hitting drives, and they were going 300 yards, and his body was, because he loved the idea of being in balance. But if you swing really well, the swing is very rotary, and so these sort of I wouldn't recommend too many people stand on them, but that really highlights to me how the hands, correct hand action makes the body work correctly. Incorrect hand action, and then you might have to think of using your body as an extra thought, which is you don't have enough time to think in the golf swing, so you want to respond. So when I do it correctly, I'm there. If I do it wrongly, as soon as I try to take that away with my hand or wrists or my arms or my shoulders, the lower body's resisting. If I push the handle, you can see the body turn, just the effortless action of the hip turn, and that takes the shoulders. And then the centrifugal force, the swinging club head, hinges the wrists. As soon as they want to hinge, it puts a reverse gear on your hip turn and starts the hips going forward. And so that's why you see it. The illusion is it looks like people are dragging it down, but the good players are just hitting the ball. And they can feel the hips, but the hips are the effect of the correct hand.
To your point of that illusion, okay, Peter. So in my studio at work, I've got a fancy 3D system, and I've probably got 60 tour players. I've captured a bunch myself, and then some were included in the system. And there's an interesting thing that I show the golfers. So at address, there's always an angle between the shaft and the lead arm. Nobody plays golf like this. There's always an angle. And let's just call that angle 135 degrees. Here's 90, here's 180, there's 135, just for argument's sake, okay? So as this golf swing, as the handle tends to go first with most good players, as they have this event, this shaft gets up to the top, and let's just call this angle, maybe it's 92, maybe it's 95, maybe it's John Rahm at 100, okay? So it's not something that gets super acute this way. Really isn't. Some golfers they change direction, they jackknife the golf club a little bit, but if you want a swing model like, say, Rory McIlroy, he's not bad, last I checked. Maybe he's not winning as prolifically as he has, but his golf swing's quite lovely. At the top of his golf swing sets at, say, 94 degrees. Well, you'd think on the way down that this angle gets a lot more acute. It doesn't. It stays quite a bit, pretty steady. It only gets fractionally, maybe a degree, like negligibly more acute, and then it starts to flee away onto the golf ball. And that is an average and that's a commonality with most tour players. So think of this to the golfers watching this. If you've got a weight where this club is not balanced in the handle, it's balanced toward the club head, and you change direction and that weight doesn't overwhelm the wrists, there is a force acting away from the golfer for the better players. It's not something where they're letting the weight of the club jackknife toward them. So, as soon as we get a golfer, and this could be the slicer and the hooker, and I know we're going to talk about hooks in a second, but if you have some stability up here and you're not letting things get sloppy, and there's a gradual motion getting the club fleeing behind and away from you, A to B to the golf ball, you're going to collect the golf ball reliably and on a path that sort of gets it in front of you in a pleasing manner. And that's what we want. We don't want the sense of this club getting too crazy, laggy. We want to feel some control of it so we can go ahead and hit it.
That's great. That's great. That's basically, so anyone that's slicing the ball because they're coming outside over the top, first thing you want to do is check out and make sure your grip is good. Make sure your left wrist is on top of the grip. Don't let it get in front. Make sure you've start with probably the club in the middle of your body rather than too far forward, or definitely not up high. You have, as Martin was saying, the angle is there. You don't want to have it too much like this. You want to have it more neutral so your wrists will work freely. Once you've got the grip, it's important to realize that you're not trying to make the club head go down this line. You need to think of the club head going down and out towards the ball. and the action of the hands drives the shaft in line with the lead arm, not out of line. And you're not pulling it down, otherwise your body will take you outside. You're throwing it down. The harder you throw, the later this angle will release, but as long as it's on this correct line, you won't get throwaway. You only get throwaway when you throw it somewhere else other than at the golf ball. So as you throw down towards the ball, the harder you throw, the better your body responds. So you don't have to think about your body. You just have to throw the club head with your hands down and out to the ball. In the process, the club will naturally want to, it will go from open, it'll want to close. So don't impede that. Allow the toe to go. The next thing that we came out of that is, whatever you do not start out of sequence. If you start club head first, or arms first, or shoulders first, they'll have a tendency to get your arms across your chest, and then you're either going to get stuck behind, but more often than not, you'll come out over the top. So allow the club head to stay outside your hands at the start of your swing, don't get it under, and you will have a natural tendency to want to come on that A to B line, and you won't come over the top to slots. That was a lot.
I think that's pretty thorough slice fix behavior, don't you? What's the next one? Are we talking hooks now, Chris? Or is there a question?
Sorry, yes, we are talking hooks, and I'll just bring up the screen here. So we're talking about the hook shot and the block shot, and they're in some ways related, aren't they? So let's discuss the hook and the block.
Yeah, so I mean, I think every golfer is gonna go through this. I know as a young man, as a little kid starting golf, I hated seeing the ball curve to the right. Now as an older guy, I hate seeing the ball go to the left. Sometimes I think that, I worked so hard as a kid to, adopt kind of Ben Hogan's bowed left wrist, along with my coach George Knudsen, helping me do a lot of the stuff that Peter teaches. I got the club face a little too strong to the path at different times in my career as a player, and I would fight over drawing the ball. Some of the things that lead to inconsistency of the face, and I'm holding a hockey stick right now because my Maple Leafs are playing the Montreal Canadiens as we speak. That's how much I love Peter. I'm not watching a hockey game. I'm on here with you, buddy, and Chris. So certain things when to have some face control, obviously, to me, an orthodox functional grip is helpful. Not to say that different variations of grips can't work. They can. And, as a teacher, I always say, if you change a grip, you lose a friend. I always start anytime I'm going to change a grip of a student that doesn't play well, I'll preface that. I'll always say, hey, listen, there's a joke. This is the joke. This is why. But I want them to have club face control. Now, the same behaviors that help you deliver or get rid of a slice, the sense of how to use your arms and hands properly, are the same behaviors that help you get rid of a hook. Because the sensations of a hook, like a lot of guys will hook it by extending their body. Their body will invade the space of where the handle is. Just to hit it, just to get the shot over with, you've got to kind of roll the face. And then that's sort of a smothery hook that's out of play. So when you are using the pressure going A to B properly, your trail arm stays in front of you. It's not one of those situations where the club gets stuck behind you, where you invade the space of where the handle is, and then you have no choice but to flip the face over. If your trail arm, if you're going A to B properly, you've got the arms in front of your body more, and then from there you can rotate, and you're way more likely to have control of the face rather than what I call, or Peter called, and I use all the time, running out of right arm.
Yes. Basically, the hook shot, you really feel it through the impact zone. You really feel the club head flips over. That's kind of the ball that really curves. There's a lot of excessive club face closure. So that's really starts, the real severe hook occurs when the person is coming outside in, and this is kind of the full hook, and the club face flips over. And so they're off to the left with a full hook. But the one that hits out to the right and gets too much curve, it's usually because, is what Martin was saying there, that they don't have control of the club face through their hands. When they're coming down here, they either get the club face closed too soon or they have it too closed in the backswing. But when they come down from here, if my body happens to slide sideways, now I've got nowhere to go except I'm either going to block it out to the right. And if you're playing out in the golf course, you do one of those, and the next tee, you definitely don't want to do that. So you start to get a little bit more hand action. And so you get this breakdown through the ball, this excessive roll of the club face, usually combined with too much sideways transfer, and then you can't clear your hip. So the club flips over. So two things to stop the hook. Firstly, don't slide, because when you slide forward, the club gets in behind you too much. So you only got two ways to go now. You're either going to block it out to the right, or you're going to make a recovery move, which will be closing over. So doing that, that's disaster. So don't slide with your hips. When you're back here, you'll see all the guys now, they're really, this left foot, they're not over here. Their left side, especially with the driver, you'll see them, they twist, this foot twists, and they haven't got their weight over here. They're hitting away from their back foot, and they're allowing this release to create this sort of action of the wrist through the ball. So you're not rolling the right hand over. The right hand comes down this way. You're not trying to close it. It's the left hand that'll help square the club face. But through the impact zone, I think it's so important that the hooker and the slicer, that they realize that as the club comes down, the shaft's uncocking in line with the lead arm. But as it does, those last three fingers of that lead hand must curl. And this gives you that kind of forward lean of Ben Hogan. And that's an anti-hook attitude through impact. This is a hook through impact. I'll hand back to Martin on that one. I see he's got his big.
Yeah. So, a simple, and I would agree with Peter, you see a lot of, I would say that pelvis location relative to your feet play a huge role in where your club path is going to be, as will ball location. So if I have a wider stance, slightly outside of my hip joints, and I have a forward golf ball location, my club path could potentially be neutral or even fade bias. The more forward the golf ball is, the more to my left for the right-handed golfer that this path is going to be. Now, it's really easy for the stronger golfer, the stronger, more experienced golfer to get prone to hooking the golf ball, because it's easy to feel weight pressure get from the top too early onto the lead side. Now all of a sudden you're stuck. Your hips too much on top of your foot. You've got to push. And then from there, you're going to, unfortunately, probably overdo rotation. You really don't have a choice. So the sensation to help people struggling with hooks is to learn how the sense of unwinding within your feet. So when you're going A to B, unwind A to B within your feet. My pelvis is within my feet. The club overtakes. Then after that, my momentum will carry me to where I can look like Rory McIlroy on my lead side in a finish. So you have a choice as a golfer where your weight pressure wants to go. If it gets too much on top of your lead side, which a lot of people say they don't get through the golf ball, and we see them way here, then they've got to back clear out of it. It's more of a gradual sensation where you can unwind within your feet, hit a golf ball with nice impact alignments, and that momentum will carry you to a finish.
Excellent. Yeah, it's definitely throw and go. The better you can throw the club head down with a non-steering idea, in other words, you want to release the club head down. The more it goes down there, the more the body responds with a turn. And all good shots come with it hips away, turned open through impact. The hook shot and a lot of bad shots come when your body stops. and then the hands either go over the top and hook it, or then you get defensive and you start holding the club face, and then the ball drops and pushes out to the right. So
Right.
So
No, 100%. And you know, you'll see even I've seen Justin Rose do drills where the sensation is he's going A to B, but you can see my lead foot's back because now as I hit this golf ball, okay, I can go A to B just fine right here, but I can't get into a place with a lead foot back where I can get too lateral to where I have to toss the golf club. I'd say a good 20-30% of my better players, when I say better players, you know, in the range of 10 handicap to 4 handicap, that they suffer from too lateral too quick. And then they have, since they're going to be too lateral too quick, they're shifting their down and out too far to the right. And so they have too much hands and they can't really start the ball as reliably as they'd like.
Okay, we might move on to the next topic now. Pete, you just got to unmute yourself there. Sorry, buddy. Let's have a little look at the next topic, which is suffered by many people. Okay, the top shot, the dreaded top shot, and the dreaded fat shot. What sort of things would cause those, guys?
My favorite. So this is part of my acting routine when I'm giving a golf lesson. And I've got my students there, and I'll say to my students regularly, okay, I'll pick somebody in the crowd, Ben, Bob, Sally, whatever. I'll say, watch my head and tell me if my head comes up, because they all think, you know, that raising their head causes top shots. So I'll purposely top a ball. I hit that, topped it so well it only moved a sliver. So there's me topping a golf ball. It bounced up in the air and then rolled into the net, right? So they'll look at me quizzically and they'll say, well, you didn't raise your head. And I'll say, no, I didn't raise my head. I say, if I didn't raise my head, in fact, I'll lower my head of 6-8 inches, and yet I'll still top the golf ball. And it's more impressive off of grass where it doesn't get pushed into the ground and up into the air. So as I do that again, I'm afraid it's going to pop up and hit me in the face, actually, on a driving range, Matt. So there's a good one, right? Topped and it rolled a few feet. So I do that by the green too on a short little chip shot. It freaks people right out. But my point is, when I ask the question, then they quickly say, well, clearly your elbows have to separate. And I say, yeah, the quickest way to reduce this radius that we take care to create at address with a nice waggle and pressure into the ground is to separate our elbows. That is the exact opposite of learning how to go A to B with structure. If I go A to B with structure, some beautiful things happen. As I get the club in my hands and I'm waggling it and I'm feeling the ground with my feet and I go A to B, I couldn't be any longer with my radius to and through a golf ball. And so that actually makes me push up and rotate. The push up and rotate has added value to help you with speed. So rather than staying down and separating elbows, which is really the cause of top shots, or some excessively steep delivery that crowns the golf ball, which is another one, okay? If you learn the structure of going A to B nicely and you carry that structure into what we call the cornerstone position, which we teach every golfer that comes to my school, this little stingy pitch shot, that behavior right there, they learn that there's a radius that they can rely on to hit the golf ball, brush the grass, give them that sense of compression and direction control. Peter.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, you know, basically 100%, you need that extension through the bottom of the swing. And the worst thing you can do is think of keeping your head down. You want to get the club head down. If you're topping the ball, it's the club head that's coming up, not your head. So the deeper you throw the club head down into the ball and your direction of hit, if you took a line, just grab one of my yardsticks here just to graphically show it from the front on view. The direction of hit is very steep on that incline. Looking at it from this view, if I go to the top of the backswing, now that direction of hit is very much down and out. It's not just out. It's the down that compresses the ball. Now, the idea also is that a lot of people think to get the golf ball up in the air that they've got to lift it up with the club face. So they're trying to either hit level or on the upswing to get the ball up in the air. And that's the wrong concept. If you want to make sure you hit the ball first, the ground second, but don't top it, as you come down, you want that club not only traveling down, you want it to be leaning this way as you hit the golf ball. And that gets more of the club face compressing the ball. And there's still plenty of loft on the club, so it's going to go in the air. The added benefit is you're going to get backspin. And that backspin has the dimples on the underside hitting the air and being more pressure. The upper dimples are going with the air, and that's what keeps it in the air. So the idea of hitting down to make the ball go up will certainly eliminate a lot of people that top the ball because they're trying to lift it. The second thing that I feel happens with the erratic golfer that tops one, hits another one, the next one fat. And first of all, you've got to turn in a barrel. You can't be playing golf transferring your weight sideways. Golf is a rotational game, and the weight transfers because the club head goes there on the arms. You're not consciously doing it. You want to stay centered. And as you throw away from your center. There's no attempt to transfer weight. So you can stay right in a very precise place so the bottom of the swing can be the same. Now, when you've got that bottom of the swing being the same every time, you can then learn to hit the ground, find where the ground is. But as you want to throw this club head down, if you start the backswing club head first or arms first, you're going to be out of sequence, or shoulders first. If you've got an out of sequence backswing, what happens is the arms get quickly, and then all of a sudden, 1 minute you get a little bit tight, and you get quick, and you either hit tops or you hit it fat. To be a consistent ball striker, you really need to swing the club head back. You don't want to muscle it and pull it up. You want to push it and swing it back. That will help you stay centered. You'll be able to become more consistent with the bottom of your swing. And that idea of hitting down now, you'll hit the ball first and the ground second more consistently rather than behind it or ahead of it. I think you'll find that. The other thing is, if you've been topping the ball, don't just go to the driver or the long iron when you're doing it. Start and rebuild your better idea with your short shots. So when I'm here like this, no better place than to start with a chip shot, where you learn to hit the ball first and the ground second. If you can't do it with a chip shot, don't expect to do it with a full swing. So lean a little forward, and the idea of hitting down will make the ball go up. You don't have to lift.
So I tell you what, Chris, we're kind of running out of time here. Do we have one more question before we wrap things up?
Sure we do. Just get to one guy's question. Driver question. I hit a drive 2 inches forward and 2 inches down into the ground. What did I do with my swing to cause this stupid result?
Oh, so the gentleman topped it right into the ground?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, to top a driver right into the ground, obviously this golf club isn't really traveling level to the ball when it hits it, clearly. There's a couple of things that could happen that, as my mind surmises, a club face can be so open, the person's staying back so far to buy time to hit it up and to get the face square, they back out of it, they can crown the golf ball. And typically what I see is a club that's so steep that it comes down that it really only has a chance to either go and hit the ground, because I guarantee you that same person either hits the ground at some point with their driver, and the driver is really not intended to hit the earth. It's intended to knock a tee over and collect the ball. So, the person's either got a way open face, or potentially a way shut face, but something too extreme that they're trying to either buy loft for or buy time for. And then the other thing is, they can just be so steep that they kind of pound down on it rather than go truly A to B, which gives them lots of time for the club to have a relatable delivery position. So I think that's something I hope that they gathered from the early part of this webinar, that if they follow that early part of the slice fix, they're probably going to do pretty well and not have that embarrassing shot happen to them.
Yeah, I agree. It's basically, if you start right, it's so much easier to make the whole rest of the swing natural, automatic. But you got to have the right idea. So iron play, to make the ball go up in the air and to hit the ball and not top it, you need to think of hitting down. The driver, because it's further forward in the stance and it's on a tee, the low point in the swing is going to be just behind the ball, but you want to be traveling parallel or slightly on the upswing. Now, if you're topping it, is what you just said, Martin, you're either on the wrong path or you're moving around too much with your body. You're not turning in a barrel. And I think those if you're having a problem with a driver and you're not having problems with everything else, I would either tee the ball higher, okay, and definitely make sure when you throw the club head at the ball, watch the ball and allow yourself to turn through the ball. Don't get blocked. Otherwise, that will impede your ability to hit the ball with a good compression.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thanks very much, Martin.
Oh, no, you bet. Where can people learn more about Peter's awesome programs? And before you talk about that, because I know we're going to wrap up soon, just to the audience out there, there's a ton of us that teach golf, and to the other coaches watching this, I know you care deeply about helping your students get better at golf. I've become a decent golf coach because of my experiences with other coaches, watching and learning from other coaches. And I'll tell you what, if you're a coach out there, learn from Peter. If you're a student out there, learn from Peter. I don't think there's a better program that really takes somebody step by step. And I know that there's a lot of people that want a recipe book. Well, I've never seen somebody bake a cake better than this guy, as far as the recipe book of kind of putting one step ahead of the other, from the care with which you put your hands on, how you start a club back, the little answers to help somebody really build an effective golf swing. Golf's a hard game, you guys. It's not just about swing. There's a lot about playing. There's a lot about emotion. There's a lot about just the routine and all these crazy things you got to learn in golf. But as far as a technical coach, from what you can gather from online stuff, Peter's stuff is brilliant. I really think that if you have time, I would dig in, I would learn, I would follow his program. You'll love it.
Thanks, Martin. And of course, vice versa, you just finished your schools season, but I know you're doing some schools around the country. And I think you're going down to Mexico, aren't you, next door?
We are. I love Mexico. I love Coronas and I love the ocean. So we're going to have some fun down there. But, I have, I'm a very hands-on coach. I do occasional online lessons available on my website. But most of the time, it's just hands-on in a golf school format, incessantly teasing the person in front of me, having fun with them, challenging them to get better. And that's what I like to do. I like to be in their face. I like to have fun with them, challenge them. COVID times have been tough, but trying to get my hands on getting them to feel the right feelings through shots. And once that light bulb goes on, man, that's really pleasing for me. It's what gets me up in the morning, besides my awesome family. So.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. And